and welcome back to an all-new episode of Let's Talk About Star Wars with Maggie Lovett. It is so good to be back with all of you. I so missed recording last week, but since I had done two episodes for May the 4th, I decided to take last week off. Since we were last together, so much Star Wars news has happened. We had 3 episodes of The Bad Batch, and Celebration got moved up from August to May of next year, which is really exciting and only a little bit nerve-wracking. As you may or may not know from my Twitter feed, I do not yet have tickets for Star Wars Celebration 2022, but I do have a hotel room. So I guess that's half the battle. So looking forward to seeing so many of you there. I think it's going to be so wild to actually be in the same place with so many of the people that I talk to and interact with on Twitter daily. I have seriously missed conventions with quarantine and all of this, everything that's been going on for the past year and a half almost. Now, so I cannot wait. My last convention was in January of 2020, just before the world ended as we know it. So I really can't wait for next year and to see so many of you. Maybe I'll do something and create some stickers to hand out to people who recognize me from YouTube, which is a weird thing. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to that and really I'm just excited to hang out with everyone. Now, today's episode is not about Celebration, even though we started off with it. Today is a very special day. It is a 19th birthday of Attack of the Clones. So I thought I'd pull out 2 of my books from my childhood when Attack of the Clones came out. This, of course, is the Scholastics Young Reader Edition, and this is the novelization by R.A. Salvatore that I just dropped on the ground. But I love this one because in the middle of it, it actually has storyboards from Attack of the Clones, and I feel like it's kind of a toss-up between this book with all of its storyboards and some of the books that I have from my obsession period with Lord of the Rings that really made me come to appreciate storyboards. As you can see, this was definitely well read because it opens directly to this page. I definitely spent a lot of time looking at it. But I felt like this just gave me so much appreciation for how movies come together. Makes me feel a little bit old to realize that this movie is 19 years old today, and I remember seeing it. But this was just fun. And the novelization was really great. I haven't reread it in a few years, but it did contain all the extra deleted scenes and extra features from the DVDs, which was cool. And then of course, the young adult version is also falling apart. I really do love reading, but this has gone through the test of time. Bent pages are falling out. I even this is heartbreaking right here, but turn down pages. I don't dog ear my books anymore, but I clearly did as a kid. Actually, so many of these pages are turned down, which makes me wonder what scenes was I... Oh, let's see. That's a scene about Naboo. That's another Padme scene. That's another Anakin and Padme scene. Let's see, in this last one, it's another Anakin and Padme scene. Wow, I'm just so obvious. Yeah, I folded down all of the Padme scenes. Love that for me. Love that for child me. And then at the back of this, at the back of the book, a little glimpse back into the past, is an advert for Star Wars Jedi Quest, an all-new series tracing Anakin's thrilling adventures between the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. Issues 1 and 2 are in stores everywhere, April 23rd, 2002. I remember Jedi Quest. This is such a look back into the past. It's so weird. But today's episode was originally going to be super short, so I decided to open up questions over on Twitter, and I got a few good ones. So this will probably be a 10-minute episode this Sunday. Right off the start, Jorge asked, do you think Omega has her own Omega watch? If Omega has like a $300 to $5,000 watch, good for her. The Camioans like must be like treating her to some fancy bling. But no, I don't think Omega has an Omega watch. My friend Adam asked, favorite part of Attack of the Clones? And then Bulbasaur responded with Padme's wardrobe. Yeah, Padme's wardrobe is definitely like a highlight of Attack of the Clones. But I actually really love, like, obviously, all of the Padme and Anakin scenes, especially like the arena. I remember I was like swooning over that kiss as they're being taken out into the arena to fight. I definitely think the highlight of Attack of the Clones is like every Padme and Anakin scene. Even that one on the balcony, it's drying course and it gets everywhere. George Lucas made those movies for kids, and as a kid, that was pretty swoon-worthy line. So he succeeded, even if as adults we're like, oh God, Anakin. It worked on me as a kid. But yeah, I love Padme as a kid. I still love Padme. So it's really fun to see like how she like interacts with the characters and Attack of the Clones, and of course Anakin, but also with the Senate and just everything that's going on in her subplot, which I still wish that we had gotten more of because it is very interesting, especially the through lines that run into Revenge of the Sith. So just always thankful for the Clone Wars animated series, which gave her just a little bit more content. Norhal asked, what would you change from the Rogue One ending? As much as I would love to say that I would love for all of our favorite characters to survive, I don't think I would change anything about the Rogue One ending. Their deaths had such an important impact on the trajectory of that story, moving into A New Hope, that I think that they needed to die to really sell that ending. As much as I would love for Jen and Cassian to have been, saved at the last second, it's their sacrifices that really make Rogue One the movie that it is. Because they're all fighting with the knowledge that they are not going to make it off of the planet. And I think that's where the power of that film comes from, because war is dangerous, war is sacrifice, war is tragedy, and that movie kind of exemplifies all of that like heartache of what the rebellion was going through to fight against the Empire. So I wouldn't change anything about the ending. Zach asked, best John Williams Star Wars theme. Oh, that's easy and so perfect, given that today is Attack of the Clones' birthday, because Across the Stars, the love theme from Attack of the Clones, is hands down my favorite piece of orchestration anywhere. Any film. There has never been another piece of orchestration that occupies so much of my mind. Even Duel of Fates, like as cool as it is and as like eerie and unusual as that orchestration is, it's Attack of the Clones. It's Across the Stars. That was one of the first pieces I learned on the piano, and still to this day is like my go-to on Spotify when I need something just like calm to listen to. So that's such an easy one. Fanboy Cantina asked, what is your holy grail of Star Wars toys? Oh man. Like looking at my bookshelf of toys, my holy grail is always going to be the two toys that I have from my childhood, as well as like my Anakin lightsaber and my Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber that I have from my youth. But in terms of like things that I want, still looking for that Cade Skywalker action figure. I'll find it one day, and hopefully not for like $1 bazillion like they try to charge on eBay. Oh man, that's hard. because I feel like my taste and my interests change so much. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I want all of the Funko Pops, and then I'm currently waiting for my Cal Kestis Black series to arrive, and I already have one Cal Kestis Black series, um, but I don't have like the Funko Pops, and like I don't know, it changes. I think that's a hard, like, if you ask me today, it would be completely different tomorrow. Because something new will come out. I will say that, like, of all of the toys that I really want right now, I want them to create a Finnick Shand action figure. So that would be at the top of my list currently, is in terms of like wish list materials. Jerry asked, who is the best Dad Batch dad? Obviously Hunter. Like Riley said, Hunter is clearly the dad. The rest are uncles. Yeah, no, it's totally like a Full House situation going on here. So they all like are fatherly, but Hunter is definitely like the father figure, and it is clearly the way that Omega is interacting with him as well. Like she has like decided this is her father. Of course, my favorite uncle is obviously Uncle Wrecker. Love that so much. And no, I refuse to accept that there is any hints that something could be wrong with his inhibitor chip. That was a like they're trying to deceive us. He hit his head. His head is sore. He is very innocent, so of course he's going to be like, "Oh, my head hurts." He's fine. Dave Filoni, do not hurt me. Do not hurt me. Joe asked, do you think Vader sensed Leia's connection to the Force during the carbon chamber scene where they stare at each other? And then somebody else chimed in and said, being the second most powerful Sith in the galaxy, Vader should have sensed Leia's connection when he takes her hostage in New Hope. That is a really good point. But George Lucas did not have a concrete plan when he did A New Hope, so we can't really assume these moments onto scenes that there was none of the later context. I mean, at that point, Luke and Leia were not siblings. Like there's a lot of stuff going on there, so I think it's easy to come up with explanations for why he didn't recognize that she was Force sensitive. I still am personally not a huge fan of the whole like Force sensitive Jedi Leia Rise of Skywalker plotline. Like it's something that I'm coming to terms with. I'm not a huge fan of it. Just because I don't think that characters need to have the Force to be powerful or to be strong or to be like important, and like it's cool. The lightsaber's cool. There's just certain parts of that plot that I am not comfortable with, which is like a silly thing to say, but like I don't like it. I can work with it, I can live with it, but I don't like it. So it's hard to take what we know now and like the information that we know now and then look back at the original trilogy with like new context, because that context didn't exist then, especially relating the carbonite scene to A New Hope. But I would say with like the added context that we have now, you could say that he recognized that she had some connection to the Force, but he obviously didn't know that was his daughter. There also could be like heightened emotions and the dark side and Palpatine and all this stuff that could have been clouding his focus and clouding his understanding of who Leia was and what kind of connection he might have had with her. But like maybe I maybe I think is like my best answer for that. And that's like not to knock people who like the Jedi Leia storyline. Like I understand why a lot of people like it. It just didn't work for me. But it's like honestly one of the things very low on my list for things from that movie that I didn't like. And I can work with it if I have to. And then Bulbasaur asked, most successful retcon. Oh, man. Oh. Most successful retcon. So it's hard to say because there's so much stuff that fandom calls retcons that aren't necessarily retcons. They're just, a slightly different version from a certain point of view. You could say it's a retcon, but I don't know, it's not. I will say most recently, in most recent history, the choice to like decanonize the canon comic for this, Bad Batch introduction of Caleb Doom, that worked for me. I thought it was really great. I talked about it in my past episode. It's really great to use characters like Caleb to introduce characters that we're not as familiar with, because like we're instantly endeared to them because they saved somebody that matters to us. And I would argue that it wouldn't have worked if it was any other Padawan. It had to be somebody like Caleb. I know that was like a lot of people were like, oh, they could have used any other Padawan. It would have been the same story. No, I mean, it could have been Cal Kestis, but like we already know Cal's story. Like there's a very finite number of Jedi that we know who survived Order 66, and Caleb's story. There are a lot of people who've only ever watched Rebels and Clone Wars and like the animated stuff, and they have never read the comics. And Dave is just following the footsteps of George, who didn't really regard written extracurricular, Star Wars content when he was working on his own projects. He just disregarded that. Because I think that while the Star Wars fandom currently is very driven by people who are reading the books and reading the comics, and there's a lot of discourse and discussion, the wider audience that doesn't spend every moment of their life thinking about Star Wars, like myself and you and everyone on Star Wars Twitter, like they don't know Kanan's backstory. They know more or less what was described in Rebels, but that closer in-depth look from the comics doesn't really matter to them. They're probably never going to read it unless they see like a Screen Rant, article about how the Bad Batch retcon, Kanan's backstory, and then they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, I saw the one in the Bad Batch, so I guess that's like the actual backstory for him. So I think that was like a successful retcon. I think changing up some of the stuff with the Ahsoka book, again, that kind of recontextualizes the story in a medium that is going to be received by more people. So as much fun as like the books and the comics are, I don't give them a tremendous amount of like weight, because there's always going to be the possibility for them to be either changed in future books when something new develops and a new storyline opens up, or it's going to change on screen. And I don't think of those as retcons. I just think of it as being like a more fluid story, and it's always changing, and like screen is informed by comics and comics is informed by screen, but like there's different layers of weight to it. And I don't think it's a retcon, but I think in terms of how fandom considers things to be retcon, it worked. And that was a really long-winded answer, and I'm so sorry for that. But I have a lot of feelings about the fact that everything is a retcon if it's not exactly how I thought it was supposed to be that time that I read this thing that no longer actually is used. Fandom, I love you. Not everything is a plot hole or a retcon, except for a certain movie that I don't like. I'm just joking. But yeah, so that was all the questions that I have for today. Thank you so much for helping me make this a little bit longer episode. It actually went a lot longer than I had anticipated. So I'm going to wrap it up now. Next week, I will hopefully be back. I have a very busy schedule this week, but I will be back, and hopefully I will have the High Republic books in my hands. I will have a new Black Series figure to show all of you, and I am waiting for two very important Funko Pops to arrive. They were supposed to be here last week, and then they got delayed. So I am very excited to unbox those and maybe cry a little bit as I put them on my shelf with the other iterations of these characters. But as always, thank you so much for listening to me ramble about the semantics of retconning and talk about Star Wars with you. I can't wait to hear from all of you down in the comments. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with me here and on Twitter. Thank you for subscribing, and as always, may the Force be with you.